It's been a while since we last had a new Scala library for HTTP, and I guess Noel Welsh thought the same because he made one. It's named Krop, and that's what we're going to look at today. I will first go over the library's website for like 5 minutes with you and tell you my initial kind of gut feelings, what I think about the principles or the documentation maybe. Then I'm going to spend an hour, just me and the library. I'm going to play with it, and then I'll give you the highlights and show you how my experience has changed my gut feelings or not. So what I think after having spent that one first hour with the library. For now, let's just start with 5 minutes. I am starting the timer now. So yeah, this is the website. It's what it is, and I'm going to use the quick start, and I know nothing about the library except for the fact that it's HTTP and it's supposed to be simple. And yeah, I'm going to follow this later, but for now I'm not running this. We have a project template, we have some manual setup steps. So far so good. There's going to be imports, just one import apparently, that's already nice. And I think I saw, yeah, there's a list of principles, so let's look at that. The goal is to make delightful, to build delightful web applications. Okay, so both the experience and the applications are supposed to be delightful. But what does it mean? Developer happiness and productivity. We want the simple things to be really simple, and for working with Krop to fade into the background, so that we can focus on your application and not like HTTP plumbing. So far so good, I like that. And how they're going to do this, scale down. Okay. Easy to get started. That seems to be a nice goal for a library like this. It's one of the criticisms behind HTTP4S, I think, that it's just too difficult to get started with something simple. Later it pays off, but maybe not in the beginning. Building something should be just a few lines of code, of course, but I suppose there has to be a goal to support like scaling up as well. It's featureful, so if you do common tasks, it should be in Krop. You don't need a dozen dependencies. Okay, Krop builds on top of HTTP4S. That's nice. I skipped one of the steps. Code is easy to write, so we have follow ID autocomplete. Maybe this will be a nice library for this particular video or this series. Okay, we have conventions. So it's kind of going to be like a framework-ish library, I suppose. No boilerplate, of course. Scala 3 features. I think it's Scala 3 only. Yeah, there's an export so that you only have one import. And I actually think this is a really important area to explore as library authors. Like, we need to start trying out doing things like this more. I know I just said nothing at all, but yeah, just have like one import that is based on multiple exports in one object. Maybe we can have a video about that as well in the future. The runtime experience. Okay, so some kind of development mode and why routes didn't match a given request. That's interesting. I don't believe I've seen anything like this in a library before, at least not in Scala. Write documentation, sure. Okay, rich user interfaces, that's interesting. I didn't think it was gonna be that. Okay, so it's inspired by LiveView and Hotwire. That's really interesting. And it wants to also do web applications running in the browser or on mobile. Longer term, we want to support local first applications. Okay, we're running out of time. And yeah, it wants to be functional. Yeah, so far it's looking very promising. And if the library actually delivers on all these things, then I think it could be a very welcome site in the ecosystem. I guess we can look at the architecture. Okay, models, views, controllers, just MVC architecture. Yeah, I really wonder how ready it is for this. Okay, so that's our cue to kind of, for me to leave you alone, or rather for you to leave me alone. And now I'll just spend 1 hour with the library, and then I'll tell you what I think. So I'll see you in an hour. Okay, so I've spent that 1 hour with Krop, and I'm ready to give you my insight, but first let's see what I built. So all I built in that time was really just like a visit counter and a list of to-dos, which is not very beautiful. But yeah, let's just add something. It works, and I can add more, I can add more. I guess it doesn't like empty strings, but Yeah, let's just ignore that. I haven't done web development in a while. Most of what I do is just distributed systems, strictly on the back end, very little exposure to HTML. So, and also very little exposure to SQL in the last couple of years. So I was not very quick in developing all this, but yeah, let's look at what I did. So the template set me up with just two routes. We had home and assets. And I didn't touch these, I didn't end up changing them at all. I just added to-dos list and then a post endpoint to allow you to create a to-do. Also the visit counter in home. Yeah, let's talk about the API. So you start with, well, you kind of start with this entry point, the command IO app. That was generated for me. It's using Decline, which we've seen in other videos on this channel. And that's really nice, but I'm not sure if it's the right choice for a library like Krop. Maybe it should be wrapping it in its own kind of type aliases, like it was mentioning in its principles. We have that command IO app, and then for each endpoint we have, we have the list of endpoints here, and these are just like, static descriptions of the endpoint, no logic, no nothing. And it also lives in the shared module, not in the backend, just in shared, which kind of suggests that we could be using this on the front end in the future. There's nothing in the front-end directory, it's just an empty module, but I guess at some point there will be some kind of front-end support in the library as well. So this is where you define your endpoints. This API is quite straightforward. You have a route, entry point, and then you say what the input looks like, what the output looks like. You start with request, you specify the path, and then you can add some parameters. Like here you'll see, actually I don't know why I didn't do path route here, but that seems to be equivalent. So you can add like hard-coded segments in your path, but then you can also have like path separated string. That's a parameter, and then we can that's my endpoint, just path route to-dos. This one also doesn't have any parameters, so quite straightforward. But this one, for example, takes a form input. So I had to create a case class for that. Maybe I didn't have to, but it was very convenient to say entity form of. And I didn't exactly know how to do a form, so I went to the docs and I went through request, and then I bumped into entities. It mentioned entity HTML. There's documentation for entities. This is, I didn't read all that, but I found this. We can just have a case class with form codec derivation. This is from Krop. It's not from HTTP4S. It's a custom case class, though I wouldn't be surprised if it's aliasing one from HTTP4S. It's hard to tell because there's no navigation here, but Krop, Krop all from codec, maybe? It's coming from routes. And there it is. Yeah, it's a custom case class instead of from data decoder. That was from HTTP4S. Here we have a custom one, which apparently goes both ways, so I can't get it. So just this derives allowed me to do it, and then just form off. If I missed this, of course it's not going to compile. What is going on? Why does it compile? What? Okay, maybe there's auto derivation, I didn't check. Event given derived. Yeah, there's auto derivation. So even if I miss it, it's still gonna work. I don't know if I should be, amazed or scared, but for simple things, I guess it's fine. So we define our endpoints here, just static descriptions, and then we have to implement each and every one of them. And I implement them with using the context, which is passed to the implementation of the route. And that comes from the startup, because we did get a database, like context current, this was there already. That's what I got generated in the template. It was just not used, but now I do use it, and basically the context is passed to the application, so all the routes can use it. So for home, it's used to update the counter, the visit counter. Yeah, so it's just gonna update and return that, and then pass that to the Twirl template. Speaking of which, there's Twirl in this page, in this library. Like Krop seems to support Twirl. It's not really like part of Krop, right? It's I think Twirl is just somehow like it's part of the project, but it doesn't seem like Krop is hard coding to it, because all it really needs is a string, And then in the definition of this endpoint is entity HTML. So it's going to be a response of string. We define the string, but it's still going to be rendered as HTML. And because it's Twirl, it's code generation. So this is our output. The actual home template looks like this. I just made brief, very small changes. Yeah, you'll notice that there's a link on this main page to the to-dos page. And that's not hard-coded. It's actually using the definition of the endpoint. We have to-dos link here, but that's provided right here. To-dos link is this route to-dos. That's my definition of the endpoint. And then path2. Now, path2 has multiple variants. And even if the endpoint has a query parameter, you can still get just the path. You don't have to specify the query parameters in order to get that. If you want to build like the full path with query parameters, you can say path and query too, and then you're forced to pass whatever the query parameters are. I guess this should be working. It does not for some reason, like with no parameters at all, like no Scala parameters at all. We could just, because there's no input like path or query parameters to this endpoint, it could be working without parameters and just give us the full thing. But no, we have to say anti-tuple, and then it'll be the full thing. I wonder, it's probably going to be the same, just the same thing. Oh, I see. So this includes the question mark. Normally, if we just do path2, it does not. It's just slash to this. So what else we do? Yeah, we call out to this Twirl generated HTML, which gives us an HTML type that's actually enriched by like a base page, which just does that, just like puts it in the body inside this. So it's like a higher order HTML function. And in the end, we just return a string. In the implementation of this to-dos endpoint, which lists the to-dos, I used the context transactor, which is again something I was given from the very start. And that transactor is an alias over Magnum, but it's really like a very thin, there's no abstraction, it's just an alias really. So whenever you touch this, you actually have to deal with the raw Magnum API, which I kind of didn't like because I don't know it. But I just went to the documentation, did some quick searches, and found out how to use it for what I need. So this was enough, and yeah, I just queried the names. I just passed the list of strings or vector, but I passed it as a list. I needed to remember how to use Twirl for this, but yeah, I just guessed, and it seems to work that way. It's I haven't used this in a while. I never really liked Twirl because like it's not Scala, it's not HTML, and you need special editor support for understanding both in one file. I don't have it, it's just HTML here, so I kind of have to guess everything. And then, yeah, in creating a to-do, same thing, we had to implement the new to-do endpoint and insert the entry into the database. Then I ended up reusing the same implementation of the to-dos endpoint, the get, just to kind of reuse code. But I think this should have been a redirect. In the hour I was given by myself, I didn't really find the time to research how to do a redirect here, but I think it's probably possible, just a matter of some playing with the route definition and returning a string. Like ultimately here we would return the path to the list of to-dos. So all these routes, when we handle them, we can handle them with just handle or handle.io. Handle is just pure logic, handle.io is going to be with some effects. So that's nice because effects are explicit and we don't like do unsafe run sync inside our handlers. And then all of these are kind of like handlers. We combine them using this handlers type. And in the end, we give it to the server builder. And previously this was like to IO. No, this was build to IO. And that was it. Sorry, there was also this. But the problem with that was it doesn't set something that is like a very common foot gun in HP4S. Namely, there is something called the shutdown timeout. So if you have still open connections to your HTTP server, it will wait for this amount of time for them to disconnect. If they don't, it will just shut down, but only after that time. So if you try to restart the application, which happens because there's like a restart command here in the template, which is coming from SBT Revolver, if you attempt to restart the application, you have to kill the old one, and while you wait for the kill, it's going to wait for that shutdown timeout if you have open connections. And browsers tend to leave open connections after you're done with, now it's still connected, so it will not instantly shut down. And I think the default timeout is like 30 seconds, which is terrible for development experience. So for myself, I just did this. I got the underlying Ember server builder and set the timeout myself. I'm pretty sure this will be fixed or improved in Krop, so that maybe at least in development time it will be a different value. It should be probably 0 in development time by default, with the ability to override it to something else. At the very least, it should be possible to set, and I don't think it's possible to set without unwrapping. And unwrapping kind of defeats the point of an easy-to-use library. Yeah, I didn't really, again, I don't know how to use Magnum. I haven't used it before. I don't know if this is the right way to do things. Maybe I should just have one connect and do things like that. I don't know if this is legal. If it is, then it's kind of side effecty-ish. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. So I've walked you through the application, but I haven't really said anything about what I think about the library. So let's get to that part. Some of these things I already mentioned. I think it's kind of nice to see a library that's like batteries included. I don't have to learn how to set up the development server, like the SBT Revolver thing. The moment I opened SBT, it told me about the commands I can use. So we also have Twirl set up, so some kind of templating engine is nice to see, even if I don't love the engine. It's still nice to see it kind of out of the box in the template, in the quick start, which is like the recommended way to get started with this library. So yeah, these are the tasks I could use from the beginning. I guess they're gonna be here, like commands. No, it's not here. There it is, like useful tasks, right? And of course we can all set this up in our projects, but the point is it's set up by default in the template. So you know exactly what to do first time you open SBT. So yeah, the batteries included aspect, also having a database in, out of the box, really helps build something useful or something, that does things and like persists things between runs. Regarding the routes API, like the route request response, I like that it's there, it's declarative, and you can do things like get the path to an endpoint quite easily. You don't even need to know all the parameters. If you just want the path, you don't need to know the query parameters or the headers or the body, nothing like that. I can't say I'm very comfortable with this API yet. Just because I don't know it and maybe it's not fully implemented yet, like we just have a couple things here. But I think it's going in the right direction. Like we need something like this and not something like HTTP4S row. Like this is much better for me. The way that parameters work, I'm not sure about. Like we have param int, which is kind of built in, but if you want something like a query parameter, then you need to do query. Sorry, there's actually this strange operator, which, yeah, I can't say this is, sorry, this operator. I can't say this is simple, right? Like with this funky operator, I think this is not the way probably. I would probably rather go like something here, like with query and then like actually what would Copilot suggest? So like limit, param, int, maybe something like that. Maybe something like this if it's optional. Many ways to do this, I know. But yeah, I think the current state could be improved a little bit here. Now I have to say that the form data support was, I was actually very surprised to see it work with just derives out of the box. that's just nice to see for a very simple form, but still, it worked. That was surprising and a positive surprise. Regarding Twirl, again, I'm not a fan because of the development experience in the editor. Just like it not understanding the semantics of these two languages and not being able to tell if this is a typo or not. But, you know, it's okay, I guess. Like for simple, small templates like this, it seems to do the job. I don't know if I would be comfortable with something bigger. But again, I'm not a web developer. I definitely appreciated seeing things like this kind of mismatched route handler. Let me just launch the server first. So when you hit an endpoint that doesn't exist, like just it's not gonna return the endpoint. It's also not gonna give you just a 404. You are gonna see like what the request was and the available handlers. I think this could be improved a little bit. Like we could have some kind of more incremental view of what was attempted and what matched, what didn't match. And I was also missing, this seems to be a bug. Like that's probably not how it should be rendered, because this is my post to-dos with a media type of form data. So that's probably just a bug and can be fixed easily. But like if I had a to-dos, let's set a new endpoint, maybe something like test route. I'm just gonna copy this one. So like test, and then it's gonna be param int to this too. And let's combine it because we need to combine it. Here, where is it? Here. Or else routes test hello IO stub. Let's run that. To this too. So yeah, this path is expecting the segment to this too, so that's fine. But if I just do to this too, it's gonna say, okay, does not contain any more segments. That's still okay. But if I use something that's not an int, it's just gonna say it's expecting a segment to match the param and nothing here. That also seems to be a bug. Like it should probably be just param int, but yeah. So I think this is a very good start. Like I haven't seen something like this in a while, but we can do better. I'm sure we can do better. Now, if I do it right, and we're gonna have a 500 because we have an exception here, this is also something I was very, very happily surprised with. It actually gives you the stack trace and the error message for the exception that caused this. I don't know if this should be not found. It should probably be something else, but it does tell you everything you need. You don't need to go to the console here. You don't even see it here. And if you've used HTTP4S before, like from scratch, you know that it doesn't show you the stack traces by default. So this is really a nice change of pace. And all in all, like the API of Krop itself seems to deliver on the promise that it's trying to be kind of self-descriptive. You just do like, you know, IDE.completion and things work. Most of the time it really does work on the Krop side, but if you use, for example, Magnum, then you still need to know that library. Like it's not, Krop doesn't deliver an API for SQL on its own. On the kind of negative side, like this matching of endpoints, I think this will not scale when you have more endpoints. Like it's going to be just more and more difficult to sift through all of them and see which one was the closest match. So maybe the process could be a little more interactive or just displayed in a more intuitive or like more incremental way. Just something that would instantly like, you know, like I'm into this too. So my close match was gonna be this one. Like that's what I was aiming to find. But instead I see things that are obviously not gonna match, like get empty and get assets. These are as far away from my endpoint as possible. So I don't know, maybe some kind of Levenstein distance is possible here, maybe not. But I'm sure this could be improved a little bit. Yeah, the Magnum aspect, like having to know the extra imports and knowledge of how to use it, it's not super cool, but I get it. I get where it's coming from. Maybe what would help is just having the template have some kind of to-do app, you know, in itself with some read-write patterns to kind of get you started with, like, I think Magnum has a case class autoderivation, like table definitions derived from case classes. That'll make for a more complete quick start demo. About Twirl, very important thing that was so frustrating is when you make changes here and hit the endpoint, it doesn't trigger a recompile. It doesn't even regenerate these generated, these routers, these templates in Scala. So I had to constantly just, like reload the application myself, which doesn't take a lot of time by one time, but if you have to do it every 5 seconds, then absolutely it's gonna take a lot of time. So that seems to be more of a Twirl SBT problem than a Krop problem. But if Twirl is going to be part of the quick start, I think it could be improved. Also, if you have any kind of errors in the startup of your application, so like before you even expose the server builder, before you even started, then it's not going to help you. You're just going to have a stack trace here in the console, which I see where this is coming from, like why this is happening, but it's not great to see. So maybe if Krop had like a Krop app, like an IO app, but for Krop, it could kind of capture these and display them in the browser anyway on some port. Like, I don't know how, because you need to know which port, and maybe you don't know the port before you start wiring the application. But yeah, I'm sure with some API tricks it can be done. Like maybe include the initialization of the application here. I don't know, many ways to tackle this. And of course, yeah, the fact that decline is a direct dependency of my code as a user is also not great. Like you still need to know how Command IO app works, even though it's great. I don't know, something bugs me about this. And yeah, the thing with Twirl also is that it relies on code generation, so you need to generate code in order to have that Scala binding and actually access it, like use it from your Scala code. You need to generate, which means it's not suitable for Scala CLI at the moment. There's no codegen in there. So I don't know, like for something minimal, like something that gets you started as quick as possible, it would have been nice to use Scala CLI, but I see why it's not possible. Still, maybe a better choice would be something like Scala tags instead of Twirl, so that you can stay in Scala for as long as possible. Maybe not, maybe there's good reasons not to, like I'm sure there are. But yeah, it's just something worth considering. And I didn't see any kind of like front-end support. It's just like you get Twirl on the class path and you get the plugin, but there's very little that it gives you. It's just like, okay, you can derive the path to the endpoint. Also nothing in the front-end module, no like Scala.js stuff, but I think it's just like the early phase of the project at this point. That's why it's missing. Yeah, plenty of things I would change, improve maybe, but also it's looking like I thought it would. Let's take a look at the principles again and see if it's delightful like it aims to. So easy to get started. I think we have this set. Like adding a new endpoint is also not a lot of code. It's quite easy and you can just follow the existing setup. Code is easy to write, follow autocomplete. Yeah, I think we are good on this side, especially with this like request route API. That seems to be working nice. Krop is featureful. Yeah, I don't know about this. Like it gives you a lot of things. Like it gives you Magnum, it gives you SQLite, it gives you Twirl, but just some kind of hand-holding you on how to use these things would be nice to see. But yeah, definitely featureful in what it has, what it gives you in the project, in the quick start. Conventions. I don't know, like some of them maybe. Like directory structure is very simple, very small in this project. It's like just 2 Scala files and everything else is HTML. So it's decent on that front. And I guess like the way you implement your routes is also fine, but that's a very small project. It's like just 4 endpoints at this point. I am not sure this would scale. And at that point, when it doesn't, you might have to come up with your own conventions anyway. But I guess this cannot be escaped. Like you're still not gonna have the same convention for small apps and big apps. Boilerplate, yeah. I don't think we had a lot of boilerplate. That was pretty good for now. Inputs are minimized. I don't know. This seems to be true for Krop itself, but again, Magnum and just Magnum requires extra imports. So that's for sure. The runtime experience, yes, this is definitely done by Krop, so it delivers. Write documentation, explain to our users how Krop works. This one is like a 50-50, like you'll see. Also this, live applications. I wouldn't say it's like live view, not yet, not quite there yet. But I want to see what it does, how it develops in the future. And be functional, yes, it's functional. So regarding documentation, like some of these pages are very sparse and don't tell you that much. Like this is okay, it tells you a couple of things, but I don't think it even tells you about how to access the underlying server, which you currently have to do, basically, to set the shutdown timeout. This page is very small, SQLite is very small, it only tells you about the setup, and it basically tells you, go learn Magnum to do these things, which is fine. Like, for the things I was doing, it didn't take much learning, but still. Similarly for Twirl, but the difference between these two pages is, with Twirl, at least you have something to get started with. Like these two templates were there. Like the base and the home were there already. I only made small changes. So you can get inspired by this. You can kind of guess how things are gonna go just from this 2 parameters, which are used. You can extend it to add 4 parameters. So that was quite easy. I did have to guess on the to-dos list, like how to do this. But yeah, I remembered from my like 8 years ago or something like that. But on the contrast, like some of these pages, like routing, this is very nice. Like there's a lot here, and a lot of it was useful. Some of it was not. But yeah, the code on like path matching and entities response, all of this was nice. I didn't even get to this part. Yeah, this page also doesn't seem that useful, but I don't know, seems to be just in its kind of early stages as well. And handlers. Yeah, so it's like a hit or miss. Routing pages are much bigger than the rest, but I can also see why like Vue didn't get a lot of focus, just because Twirl has its own documentation and it's kind of easy to guess how to use it. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna do ratings in this series, at least not at this point. But yeah, I think Krop delivers on some of its principles and its promises, but I think it still has a lot to do. On the documentation side, on the developer experience side, but also like the API itself, I wanna see what Krop is gonna do for SQL, if it's gonna do something for SQL with like wrapping Magnum in some high-level API, or at least just giving like good examples of how to use it in the template. And yeah, I'm curious how it grows and how it scales in an application. So as your application grows with more endpoints, more stuff to do, if Krop is gonna kind of hold its weight. Although, let's be honest, the weight is mostly libraries like HTTP4S, which do hold their weight, but yeah. So I guess we have yet to see if Krop actually simplifies things, makes it more delightful, or just hides the complexity for no reason. That is to be decided. So far, overall, I guess a positive experience. So I'll leave you with that. Let me know if you liked the format of this video, if you like this library, if you're going to use it, and if you have any feedback for the video or whatever, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.